What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel. We've got another 3-rotor FD video for you guys today. In this video, we're going to be walking you guys through the process of getting the original fenders ready for the wide body kit on this car. So let's get right to it. So as you guys have probably seen on this car, Mike has some wide body over fenders both on the front and the back. With this car, we're planning on running some pretty wide, probably 275 or 295 Toyo R888s. It's our favorite personal tire. We're going to be running that on this car. It's great grip and it's a great street tire. But one of the problems with running over fenders and then running wide tires is you have to, make modifications to the existing metal fender so that you don't have any rubbing or touching issues with the tire. This morning Martin has been doing that, and I will let you guys see kind of his process going through that and getting the fenders ready for wide body.
The way I determine how much to trim, since we're not fully tubbing this rear quarter panel, we're just trimming it to fit the wide body, and this car is going to remain a street car, so we're not going to be going that low like a race car would. So when I usually one thing that I really look at is that this sheet metal up here, since like I said, we're not tubbing, we're not cutting this off, there's no point to cut it much higher than this highest point. And as you guys can see, I've already trimmed it, but I decided about 3 inches because the highest point was basically 3 inches above the factory lip line. So that's how much I determined. You kind of draw a half moon shape, and this method has always worked really good for me. Just keep its original inner metal, but you cut slits like this, and basically you can tack weld it and bend it up like this, which will give you that perfect forming shape. And then, of course, after you weld it, you can hammer it to flatten things a lot easier. But, right now with it being cut out, you basically can't really form it that well because everything is all floppy. Just come around this way. So I've already cut and welded all the edges, so you can see, and I also flatten every little spot and made myself a little cover plate, which will get welded like this. And after doing that, I'm going to show you guys how to use panel bonding adhesive to really seal this part in 100%. These quarter panels are really made out of thin material, so I like to use MIG welder with it turned way down so I can actually weld these two really thin sheet metals together without, burning through holes and stuff like that. And this is the technique that I use. I use a big hammer like this, you wedge it like that, and tack weld. It's not grounded. Tack weld. And I kind of like welding it from the center out. So when you use my method, you end up with these little slits there's a couple ways to fill it. You know, I've used a little bit of fiberglass cloth with epoxy panel bonding adhesive, and that seemed to work really well. But my customer is basically, he wants to have me weld it shut, which is just another step, but it's a really good one. But now I get to take all the undercoating off and strip the paint so I can get the welds to stick. I got the undercoating all stripped and ready for welding the last panel back in. But you want to make sure this area is trimmed high enough so when the suspension compresses up, the best way to check this is obviously to have the correct size tires that you're going to be running, and take out this spring and then fully see and make sure. But from my experience, this is trimmed way plenty enough. I'm going to show you guys right here. So, you know, wheels used to sit in further in, but now it's going to be further out and up. So as you can see, this is more than enough clearance that we trimmed out. So now I can go ahead and finish my last panel.
Martin finished up these plates on the bottom. He's got everything sealed up. He's also going to put some panel bonding and make sure he's got it really properly sealed. There's two main reasons you want to do this. Of course, you're doing it for weather protection and dirt protection when the car is driving on the street. But also another really important reason to do it is that this car is a unibody, and you know, if you split right here and you don't have it properly welded back together and sealed, you're basically weakening the strength of the, the unibody of the car, and if you get in a rear end accident, it's going to crumble much easier. You know, think of a box. Cardboard box is much more, strong and protective if it's all put together. If you go ahead and take one edge off, it's not going to work nearly as well. Martin is going to go ahead and patch these holes. It's pretty clear somebody had wing mounted here. And then they decided to remount it out here on the wider platform. So we're going to go ahead and patch these holes. There's two on each side. And yeah, we'll let you guys see his process.
Okay. So first of all, trunks and back lid cover are usually made out of really thin metal. And not only this car was already a sports car with all light body panels, this is going to be extremely difficult to not warp while after you're welding these holes shut. So I'm going to show you guys some tricks and what I do to make it so that it makes it easier for bodywork to go on and smooth it out. These are I'd say like about a 1/4 inch to almost 1/2 inch hole, or a 1/4 inch hole. You wouldn't be able to fill it with welds, so you'd have to put some sort of backing plate. And I'm going to show you. I'm going to slide this in like here, and I'm going to temporarily hold it with the magnet. I just tack welded it, but you'll see, I'm gonna fully weld it, and you'll see that these parts will kind of raise up with heat. So you're gonna wanna have a wet rag ready. To shrink the metal after welding it, so that later on when you go to do a body work, when you go, you know, you won't have any high spots. So I'm gonna shrink it. So you can see it. It's not as bowed up anymore.
We're also going to go ahead and patch this antenna hole. We won't be needing that. And we're going to use the same method with the backing plate and then the rag to cool it down to try and stop any high spots or bodywork. What Martin did a really good job of avoiding high spots, and we can now be able to add Bondo to these and be able to do the bodywork and paint. So that'll be nice. Of course, there will be a little bit more Bondo needed up in that bigger hole, but you guys can see these small ones, it looks nearly flat already without any Bondo at all. So like I said before, we were just waiting for this epoxy to come. This is a type of panel bonding, and what we're going to do is put panel bonding on right on this seam and right here on this inside seam where Martin welded. So it's really important to do this, you know, to make sure that all, even small microscopic holes are sealed properly. You know, like I said, this is a unibody car, so, you know, you want to make sure that everything is sealed properly, just like the factory would do. You know, that's how they avoid, you know, water damage and other things getting inside the car if the car is ever, you know, in the rain or anything like that. So it's really important that we do this. And then the best thing is that we're using, you know, a factory rated, you know, it says it's applicable on Honda and Acura.
The technique here is to, well, I'm using my finger, but really press in where I welded, so just in case I, you know, miss spots or any kind of pinholes that might be, I can go ahead and really seal this whole thing in.
We're using this, it is OEM factory rated to go on Hondas and Acuras. The best part about using something like this that's a little bit more expensive is that it means that it'll bond really well, not only to the car and seal it properly, but you will be able to paint onto it with primer and with paint afterwards, and you won't even really see it. So I think this is going to work great and have this car sealed up and looking good.
Yeah, and my friend had this problem recently. He used just a regular household window silicone, and silicone is kind of a soft material, and primer has a harder time sticking to it. So sometimes the paint could peel off and stuff like that. But this will actually harden, just like an OEM spec epoxy glue that they use to glue the unibodies together with.
So that is this side done. You guys can see that Martin really got that epoxy pressed in there. Like he said, it's really important to get that properly sealed. So you guys can see this is a 2-part epoxy resin, just like normal. And then Martin will mix it together on his little mixing plate before he puts it on the car. So this is a mixer that they will sell you with it. You can see it's got these little paths for it to follow inside to mix the two. But the biggest problem that you have using this is that you'll, you know, lose some of the epoxy resin inside this right here. And this stuff is actually pretty expensive, so Martin is just mixing it by hand so that he can make sure he gets as much out of it as possible. So we're going to do the other side now, and then we'll be able to let it dry up, and it'll seal really well. So it's been a couple days, but before we finish this video, I wanted to show you guys the R888Rs that came in and we put on the car, and kind of show you guys the fitment and how they fit with the modifications that Martin made to the original fenders. So if you look here, these are the Toyo R888s. We're running 275 18s in the back, and you know, you can see the fitment there. They look great, and if you feel up in here, there's a good solid, 2.5, almost 3 inches from the top of the wheel to that fender that's under there. So that'll be more than enough for the travel of this car for it to not rub, and I think that'll fit good. So that's going to be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Martin's going to be building the front bumper for this car, and we'll see you then.